Alright, today I want to do some investigating and get to the bottom of a really important question. What is a modern audience? Hi y'all, SnarkyJay cosplay here. I've noticed a trend with a lot of media coming out lately. I'm using Disney as my biggest perpetrator of this here. Every time somebody puts out a remake, a reboot, a sequel nobody asked for, something that seems uninspired and yet intentionally altered, they tell the people that complain that this is a piece of content for a modern audience. Disney considers its sequel trilogy and shows like the Book of Boba Fett as something made for a modern audience. All of its uninspired live-action remakes are for modern audiences. Marvel movies and shows that are so lame they're offensive, like She-Hulk for instance, are for modern audiences. Who is the modern audience? I want to start off with the fact that, sure, okay, I can accept that things like Star Wars and comic books like Marvel have been predominantly enjoyed and sort of like gate-kept, I guess, by white guys. Comic books, Star Wars, these kinds of sci-fi and fantasy things have been predominantly male-dominated spaces. And just as a woman, I can admit, yeah, it's been really hard to kind of break into that space. I've been into Marvel and DC and Star Wars and all that since middle school. It's been my thing, and it's something that I genuinely really enjoy. And I find it infuriating when I go to a convention or I post something like a Transformers cosplay or any piece of content that's inspired by these nerdy spaces that I live in, and I'm automatically challenged like, name every Batman comic ever, name every Decepticon ever. If you don't know who this Marvel hero kissed in one issue in 1973, then you're not a real fan. All that kind of shit I've been having to fight with for years. So to a certain extent, I can see the importance of having to sort of spread these pieces of intellectual property to different people because of the fact that, hey, these have been so predominantly held onto by men and certain groups that other people have felt like we can't break into the space and also enjoy it because they're just gonna challenge us and gatekeep us from being able to enjoy what we like. And some of the complaints about these products for modern audiences, I can admit are a little bit ridiculous. Every time somebody leaves the phrase the MSHU in one of my comment sections, a piece of me dies and there's not much left, so please don't go into the comments section and do it now or it's gonna be bad for everybody. But even valid criticisms from lifelong fans are met with just insult. I remember there were a lot of other content creators also complaining about She-Hulk when Disney was releasing that disaster week by week, and basically every male that didn't like that show was a misogynist, and I was told that it was my own self-loathing and internalized misogyny that was poisoning me against the champion woman that was She-Hulk. Get the f*** out of here, that show sucked. So I ask Disney, and all of you if anybody has any insight, this. If the audiences that usually like content like Star Wars and Marvel are now all ists and phobes and all kinds of negative things under the sun, and Disney no longer wants to make content to serve to them, they're serving it to a modern audience, then who is part of the modern audience? And I ask these questions from a fairly unique perspective. I'm almost 23, which makes me just a little bit younger than a millennial, I think. I am Cuban Puerto Rican. My dad is an immigrant. I live in a mostly Spanish-speaking area, and I'm also a woman. So all things considered, I think I check off a number of those modern audience boxes that Disney seems really hoping to check off. And yet most of this content is just not it. I mean, even with my admittedly refreshed and diverse point of view, I look at a lot of what Disney does and it's all just bullshit pandering. Disney is willing to do some major pandering in some cases and insult their fan base in others, and then roll over on these stances completely when it comes to making money because that's what they're about. A lot of recent Disney projects hit theaters and then immediately sort of crash because they're just not what the people wanted. So who's Disney trying to serve here? If we're you're all ists and phobes for providing valid criticism that has nothing to do with race, sex, gender, orientation, weight, any of these other things that you really shouldn't have a huge opinion on, then who is this content really for? I check off a number of those boxes and I can tell you that really Disney is not serving me, folks, so I'm not sure who they're talking to here. And that's all from me. I've been SnarkyJay. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts on Disney's modern audience in the comments below.